Greetings and welcome to Parsing John. Today we are going to finish off this second to last paragraph of chapter 1. Verse 41 and 42 are all that we have left. As with the previous videos, which you should have watched before now, and if you haven't, you should go do it right now. Otherwise, you won't understand what's going on. We are trying to see how close the Latin text is to the Greek text, since the Greek text is the older text and therefore the authority. Now, Latin is not always going to be exactly identical to it. The two languages are very similar in how they form and the different constructions that they use for their sentences, but sometimes they break away from each other and have a different way of doing things, and that's fine, so long as it gets the same idea same idea. We don't care very much. Let's go ahead and get started. Heuriske, we have a present active verb right there, and we've got present, or technically perfect active right here and when it. And since this one is present, we should assume then that Jerome meant present for this one, so we're going to cross out perfect, circle present. So he finds is the correct one. We've got a demonstrative right here. This one, nominative singular masculine, and nominative singular masculine right there. That's good. We've got proton, which is possibly an adverb, possibly a adjective. And then we've got the exact same thing in Latin, possibly an adverb, possibly an adjective. And so Greek doesn't add any more clarity to the Latin text right here. Oh well. We've got his own brother. We've got a reflexive possessive right there. The brother, ideon. This one tells us the same idea as suum, but I don't think it's actually reflexive in the same way that sua, suum is. But that's fine, because it's the same sense across in a way that Latin does it. I think there is, and I should know this, really should know this, there is a reflexive possessive adjective for this. Auton, no, that's plural. Well, if I remember it, I'll put it up on the screen. Simon, good. And present active, he says, present active, good. Indirect object, direct quote. We have found the one that we were leaning towards, this either present or perfect, and in the Greek it is clearly perfect tense. So then we should circle this one, cross that one out. There we go. So that, yeah, these two match. That's good. The Messiah, Messiam, good. All right, brain just went blank right there. Which is being translated Christ. We've got present active of Amy, and then we've got present passive of this verb. We've got present active of sum as a fui, and then this one is perfect passive, perfect versus present. So yet again, the participles are not matching. This is getting, frankly, annoying. But it's the same meaning, just different tense in there, as with several of our verses before now. Christ. He led him to the Jesus. This is an aorist active indicative, directional, direct object, perfect active indicative, adduxit. So these two match. That's good. Direct object, place to which. And then we've got this et here, but we don't have anything similar in verse 42 of the Greek. So then what Jerome is probably doing here is he's just connecting these two sentences together, which is not what happens in the Greek. The Greek, it's, well, they're right next to each other, so we don't really need a conjunction. This is just extraneous information, possibly adding clarity for the Latin reader. Let's move on. Having looked straight at him, the Jesus. We've got aorist active participle, perfect opponent participle, having looked at him, however, Jesus, our subject right there. Perfect tense and aorist tense, those are equivalent. We've got, this one takes a dative as its object, this one takes an accusative as its object. We've got another autem in here, but nothing like that in the Greek. And we've had, I think, 2 or 3 autems before now, which appear in the Latin, but have no corresponding word in the Greek, which can be a problem. He said aorist tense. This is a perfect tense. Second person singular present active. Second person singular present active. You are Simon, son of John. You are Simon. Is that visible? Yes. Son of John. So far, so good. Got you will be called. Future passive, beres. And then in our Greek, sou klephesei. This is future passive in our Greek, which is good. These two match. Kephas, kephas. Ho and quote are equivalent. Ermeneu etai. This is present middle, or this is present passive indicative. Present passive indicative. That's good. Those two match. Petros, Petrus. So far, so good. So this text right here, 41 and 42, seem to be far closer to their Greek equivalent verses than the previous ones, where we had a lot of issues in there. And I'm not going to even remember to find them all. So we take a look at this. Previous ones we had, I think this was one of them where we have an aorist tense in the Greek, but we have present or something in the Latin. These matched. That might have been another issue. It's largely just the participles between the two where the issues were. And then we had an imperative here and a future here, but the Latin had an imperative and another imperative. So these two, the verbs in the equivalent sentences there, did not match, and that was bad. And then we have pou mene, which is where he is staying. Sorry. Third person singular present active, but in the Latin we had an indirect question is the construction we had there, so Latin branched off, and that was fine. Changed the tense, but that may have been necessary to get the same idea across in Latin. Further here we had a different time construction, tein hemeron ekenein, and instead I think we had illo die, which is an ablative of time when rather than the accusative extent of time. And this was the same, but we had autem in here, and then I think we had another autem right here in the Latin. So issues. And then over here we have, I have now completely forgotten. We figured out what these two were based on the Greek, so those weren't an issue. We have, this one is perfect passive, whereas this one is present passive. And future good. That was perfect, and intuitus is perfect. Where is that equivalent word? Aorist tense. So not as many issues in here. Since it is almost exclusively the tense of participles between the two languages that are different, where Latin gets that wrong, it's not actually that bad. I don't think the change in the tense in Latin has significantly changed the actual meaning of the text, which is the biggest thing we want to avoid. If the Greek says something, but then our translation, say the Passion Translation, if you will, and it says something completely different in our target language, then we have an unfaithful text, and it can't be trusted. So Latin has not broken any major rules. We've got a participle, we've got an imperative when we want a future, which is a little bit odd when that's a very, very easy thing to fix. I suppose it could be, and mind you, I didn't notice any notes in my Greek text for that specific spot, but it could be that there is a version of the Greek text that has two imperatives rather than the imperative in the future that we find in what we looked at today. So that might not actually be an issue. And if it turns out that I do find that is the case, I'll put a note right here. Maybe, yes. Right here. Somewhere along the screen. Anyway, there we go. Latin tense issues, no major change in the meaning. So my completely made up grade for this, I think it deserves, I'm going to give it a, I don't remember what I gave any of the rest of the lines and how much worse or how much better they were. So I'm going to give this a B-. And there we go. Thank you very much for joining me for this paragraph. I hope taking a look at all these verses together has been helpful for you, and I hope that you continue to join me. Have a good day.